Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the second place deck profile from Sorvent's non-meta tournament number 5. So go ahead and say your name and say what you play.
I'm Hexagon 7 and I played Merlantians.
Alright, so we are going to get into the deck profile. So unfortunately we did this one time before, but the audio ended up not working. But hopefully now we have like a good understanding of where to go with. So we'll go ahead and get into the list. So we have 3 copies of Dragoon, and obviously this is just great. I mean, you can send it with a lot of your, just like the majority of your deck, and it just gets free searches. I don't think there's probably anything you want to change about that. Anything you want to mention with this?
No, you just play 3. Like, if you don't play 3, you're playing it wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. Does the effect with all of the level 3 or lower sea serpent monsters can attack directly? Does that ever
I
come up?
It never came up. It might like come up like once, maybe if you like have a marksman onto the field because he
Mm-hmm.
has a battle phase effect. But like, I don't think it ever came up when I played.
Yeah, I just noticed he had that effect, so I figured I'd ask. I didn't know if it was even like worth mentioning, but yeah. So
I mean,
uh,
it could be useful like every once in a while,
yeah, I
but
guess so. Seems like fine. So 3 copies of heavy inventory. So this is the one that pops the face-up cards. It's pretty good. I mean, you in combination with like the most of like the abyssal Asia, this card's like really good as
yeah,
well.
it's really good. Also, it gives you a second normal summon for a sea serpent.
Oh yeah, that is truly. I didn't
It,
notice
it,
that
it
it
does
does
come
that,
up
but
like for extra link materials.
oh, pretty good. And then 2 copies of Marksman. Isn't this the one that it's like it targets a set row, back row, but if
Yeah,
it's chained, then it like
yeah,
fizzles or
that's
whatever.
correct.
Yeah. So that one's like kind of like okay, but still like pretty good.
Yeah, I played it because I was expecting a lot of back row, but didn't play against any back row decks except for like maybe Burning Abyss, but
Yeah. Even then,
even
it's
that.
like not that great. Typically, you want other stuff for it. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
like their whole deck floats though, so even like the infantry kind of feels like pretty bad against that matchup. But then we have the 1 copy of Barrier Statue of the Torrent. Obviously, since it's limited, but still worth playing just because this is insane. If you can, special it back with like Coral Anemone, and you're not even
yeah.
hindered by this at all. So,
I just play one probably because it's good if you summon it off from Prima Donna, the Synchro 7.
yeah,
Apart from that, like you want to normal summon Diva or Neptulus.
right, most of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And then 1 copy of Deep Sea Artistan. I don't remember if this is played in like typical TCG lists or if this is like
I've seen a few play it, but it's not like that popular. The effect is quite nice, like having a reborn for free.
pretty good.
Like
Then
late,
yeah,
yeah, late game if you have Diva, it can be useful, especially if you have one Neptulus, because you can't
right.
recycle it.
Okay, so it seems like it comes up like fairly often. 1 copy of Deep Sea Diva. So obviously, if this was at 2 or 3, you'd be playing it at that as
Yeah,
at the max copies you could possibly play. But since Diva is just limited, we're playing just the 1. Um, this card's insane, being like a 1 card synchro 8. It's also like really good just to get tons of advantage starting. I don't think there's really anything else to say about this. It's just fantastic. But yeah. Then 3 copies of Deep Stream Minstrel. So I think you were mentioning that people start playing this in their TCG list. It's like a fairly new card, and it
yeah,
seems like pretty good to just kind of like get rid of like disruption or like hand traps out of your opponent's hand.
yeah.
Kind of like
That's pretty much what you use it for.
yeah, it's kind of like a Farfa but for your hand. It's like the best way for me to explain, but yeah. Then you're on 3 copies of Fishborg Launcher. I think you were saying some people play this in like the TCGs just because it's a tuner, so you can make
Yeah,
like Hulk with it, but they usually only play 1 copy. I think you were saying,
yeah. They usually play one copy to summon from Hawk with Fibrax.
right? And your list
Uh,
you're playing 3 just because it's really nice to
it,
have the
it,
synchro material,
it's one of the best discards you can have.
right? So it seems pretty good. Lapis Dragon's really nice just to search off of Dragoons, just get a
Yeah,
free
free
special.
body.
Yeah, it's a tuner as well. Um, it's really good. Medium with the ice barrier. So I think this is a choice that you opted to make just like a tech option since you were expecting a lot of back row.
Yeah,
Because against like the Paleo matchup, if they have 4 cards, you can just special this and there's like, or they have to out it pretty much. Or they can only activate 1 spell trap, so it's like pretty rough for them. They have to like force a negate pretty much, or like an interruption rather.
yeah. It forces out
So,
to back row pretty much.
right. And the Medallion of the Ice Barrier is just search that, but we'll get there in a second. Then the Abyss Gunday. So I don't remember what you search this off of, but typically it's like later in the combo.
Abyss Taste can search it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Abyss Taste. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like a reborn. So.
Yeah, so you can use then you use a taste for link material and you can just bring it back.
Right. Then 3 copies of Megalo. So this searches for your scales or whatever, which are both really good. I don't think there's anything to say about this. This is also like the OTK enabler, so it's really good. Mermail,
really good.
Yeah. Abyss Pike. So I think this is also like another utility that you can just kind of like special something back, or sorry, not add. Add, not special. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, you usually only search this if you open taste rooms.
Right.
Because it helps make Bahamut chart on the 4th summon. Like Nibiru is banned, but like still making Toad is really good.
Yeah, especially early, just to like have the extra interruption. So it's really good. Then Teus, this is, I think like you were saying, this is like one of the best cards to open, like especially if you do open Chase Drones, you just win.
Yeah, if you open Taste Moons, you have a really good hand.
Yeah. And then the 1 copy of Net Abyss. I think that usually you bring this back with Diva, but there's like, or out of the deck with Diva, but I think there's a lot of other ways you can get to it since it's like the Sea Serpent level 1, so you can like 1-for-1 for it.
There's a lot of cards that search it.
Right, so there's lots of ways to get to it.
It's like what makes a deck work.
Right, exactly. Just sending like a Goons as like free value, so it's really good.
Yeah, it sends Goons, search and Atlantean, then gets another search. It's just broken.
It really is just like so good.
It's a monster boon too.
Right. It's just I remember like in one of your games you ended up going like Coral Anemone to bring it back too, just because like it was like really good. That helped like a lot. And then you're playing 2 Abyss scales. So I think the monster one people don't usually play, but you're on it this one just to, I guess, have an extra utility out of it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like if you open it, like you can still use it, and if you open like the spell negate and you have Megalo, you can switch this one too. So it's pretty good.
Or vice versa. So obviously they're both pretty good. For that aspect at least. So having a spell negate and a monster negate. The worst thing about them is that it's mandatory, so like the first one they activate you just have to negate, which sucks, but other than that, like they're pretty good.
One nice thing is that it also negates like a super poly if they have to use, because it negates on resolution.
Right, it doesn't chain to it, it just negates on resolution like you said. So it's pretty good. The 3 copies of Deep Sea Aria, so this searches for like pretty much your whole deck. Most notably Diva, though, I think was probably the main reason.
Diva, Abyss, and all the Atlanteans, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. And then, like I said earlier, 3 copies of Medallion of the Ice Barrier to search for the medium. I think you were just, like I said, just playing it for back row. It seemed like also like pretty good, like when you drew it in combination with like Moray of Greed. Like if you drew like 2 of these, you could just cycle. Yeah. You could just cycle through a lot of cards and get a free body on the field at least. So even like when you aren't playing against like Paleo, it was still like pretty good to have the body.
It's like free discard for Megalord or stuff like that.
3 copies of Moray of Greed, I think typically just like fix your hands. It seems pretty good, especially like the cards you draw like multiples of. And then 1 copy of 1-for-1. You're basically playing all monsters. So, I mean, like, there's a couple spells, but, like, realistically, you're most likely going to be drawing monsters. So 1-for-1's really good, especially because you like your cards being in the graveyard anyway.
Yeah, and summoning Net Abyss is just so good.
Right, yeah. And then Pot of Avarice to just cycle some cards back and get some extra drop power.
I don't think I used it a single time in the tournament.
That's actually pretty interesting. And it's
pretty much always live, because you would have Moon and Glacier live usually, and whenever you have Moon and Glacier, then Pot of Avarice is live, but Moon and Glacier isn't here. So
right. So you never use this at all? Maybe like a couple times. Oh, interesting. Would you still consider playing it though?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like shuffling back like your Neptuvis and you treat your goons, and it's like so good.
Yeah. Because you do burn through all the Dragoons pretty often.
Yeah.
So it seems like it would help with the grain game. Then we have 1 copy of Dragite for the extra deck. one copy of Brionac. I think both of these are just like really good, like generic synchros, especially for
Yeah.
waters. Since I think like your entire extra deck is water except for like one card, which we'll get to in a moment.
Yeah.
But
Cool thing about Brionac is that it triggers your Atlanteans
yeah,
because it discards for cost.
right. So it just makes the deck even that
Yes.
much
So
better.
if you have infantry, you just discard it, bounce something, and then pop another card.
Yeah. So that's really good. And then Prima Donna, I think like you said, you can summon the barrier statue off of this, so it's like really good.
Yeah, you summon Bear Statue, or if you don't have, I think you can summon Neptunus too. So
Right. And then the Crocodile Dragon. So this also like triggers your Atlanteans as well.
yeah, this card is broken.
Right, especially if you draw like the heavy infantry. If you can set this
Yeah.
up, you get 2 free pops, pretty much. So seems pretty good.
Yeah, you get 2 free pops, and you draw 1 on summon, so it's so good.
Right. One copy of Trishula. I think you said that when you could ever make a Synchro 9, you would just go for the Crocodile Dragon anyways.
Yeah, it usually be like I either have 2 monsters to make the Synchro 9, or like I'm going first, and having the pop is usually better than pen looping one.
Yeah, like it's just like a random banish, right? Wouldn't you rather like pop a specific card?
Going second Trishula is really good, but
Yeah.
I don't think that ever came up.
Yeah, that makes sense. One copy of White Aura Whale. So this is something I'm not like super familiar with, but it looks like pretty good going second to go ahead and just like basically just
going
Raigeki.
second, it just clears the board.
Right. So that seems like pretty good actually.
It also comes back when it's destroyed, so some decks have a really hard time outing it.
Okay, that's pretty good. And then moving on into Xyz monsters, for the rank 4s, we have Abyss Dweller and Bahamut Shark. So these are both really good because they're both water. Something that, if you didn't know, Abyss Dweller actually gains 500 attack if it has a water under it. So it was probably pretty big, I'd assume, if you ever summoned it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever summoned it. The only time I would have summoned it instead of Bahamut Shark was against BA, but I never opened like Tis Goon, so it never came up having a rank 4.
That's too bad. That would have been really good, just
Yeah,
having
that
a
would've
Dweller
helped
under
so
it.
much, 'cause
Yeah.
It was so hard playing against because like everything either pops pretty much, so it's so hard playing around like the BAs.
Yeah, just everything floats in that deck, so it's just like felt really bad, just like popping cards, and he's just like, all right, I'll just get everything back. So
Yeah.
then obviously the Bahamut Shark for the Toad, just like so good.
Yeah. It also triggers wounds.
Yeah, that's right, because
really
it is detached for cost.
It's attaching for cost, yeah.
Same thing with the Dweller, I believe, as well, but like you said, that didn't come up. Then one copy of Abyss Gaios. This is like really good to end on sometimes because it's like a skill drain, basically for your opponent.
It's really good.
And then it also has the little. It's kind of more of an obscure effect, but the level 5 or higher monsters can't attack is pretty good.
Yeah, but that also affects you, and that can be pretty annoying. Like,
Oh, that
you
is
have,
yeah.
Megalo, and you want to OTK it, like you have to detach a materialist.
Oh, that is kind of rough, but I mean,
Yeah, but
you can still like play around it, kind of.
Yeah, you can just tribute it with Megalo's effect to attack twice, and that could come up.
Then moving on to links, you have a copy of Area, Coral Anemone. Is there anything you want to mention with these?
Both are pretty good. I mean, if you're playing against the water deck, Arya, the water charm is pretty good.
Yeah, it just takes something.
Marine Cess, it was really good.
Oh yeah.
Apart from that, I don't think it ever came up.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you could like you took their Coral Anemone and then like reborn something, or maybe it was you took the Coral Anemone and made Zeroboros. I don't remember.
I took one of their Linkus and make Zeroboros, I think.
Yeah, that seems like really good, especially against Maritzas, because they don't have, they can't really out like a Zeroboros effectively.
Zeroboros is really good against that deck because they always summon 2 points.
Yeah, they have to summon to the link zone. So when comes back, you just put in the middle zone, and then they just kind of can't play. So it's pretty nice. Then Abyssalacia. This is like really good going first. I know like this deck likes to go second. So when you're forced to go first, I know the Abyssalacia can be like really good. Just like
going first, it's actually pretty good because usually end on the rank 7 and the Abyssalacia with like the spell, the Mizuchi. I think it's the spell negate.
Right.
So and an infantry in hand, so you have like 4 interruptions.
Right. So which is still like pretty good.
It's pretty good, yeah. Also, it gives you a search for next turn, which is really good, and the floating effect also comes up. It sends a water from deck for cost, so it's like really broken.
Yeah. And then Mistar Boy, and I think like you mentioned that the main reason that you play this was because Coral Anemone is a Cyber type, and you want to
Yeah,
make the Abyssal
when you want to
Asia.
make Abyssalacia, yeah, you link off Coral Memory and whatever you have into Mistar Boy, and then you can make the the mo- the
Abyssal Asia.
the Abyssalacia. Yeah, I forgot the name for a second.
Yeah. So it seems like kind of like a little bit of a workaround, but I think like the Coral Anemone just gives you so much advantage that it's definitely like worth playing. So,
Yeah, well, it
um,
comes up with like the Teus Goons combo
mhm.
that makes Toad on the fifth summon. You want to then after that you make Coral Anemone to bring back the Neptibus and then start comboing off.
Right.
So it's like mandatory for that combo.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the last card you play is the non-water, the only water, not water monster in the main deck or extra deck, which is Zeroboros, which is like really good against Marine's Heist, like we were mentioning.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the only time it came up. I think I never
yeah,
used it
yeah,
in anything else.
which makes
So
sense. But
I would probably play like something like Appaloosa or any other link for it, but like all the good link fours were banned,
right,
so I had to play like this.
which
This or like Boreal Dragon, I think were the two best.
yeah, I think that like out of those two options, I think the Zeroboros is probably the best option, just because of like having that like insane effect when it just comes back. You could just like one punch your opponent is like so good.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I think that's like my only out to like Towers monsters because
mhm.
it gets really big. Because I didn't have like I couldn't play any other kaiju's apart from Gamma Seal, but that one was banned.
Right,
So because it messes up your graveyard if you play another attribute.
that makes sense. And then so any like changes you want to make to maybe like the main deck or the extra deck?
I'm pretty sure it was good. Maybe like cut the Abyss Dweller and put something else.
Right,
Probably run a second rank 7 because it came up a lot of time when I could have made another one. Because like Abyss Teus, I think it's Abyss Teus, has like really low attack. So if you can make a rank 7, like it's usually better just to make a rank 7 with it.
right, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
okay,
It came up a lot of times when I wanted to make another rank 7, but just didn't have one.
hmm that makes sense. So maybe cut like the Dweller, maybe to like the side deck, which we'll
Yeah.
get to in a moment. Mostly for you, it was just kind of like a meme. So yeah, I mean, clearly you didn't need it, because basically without a
Yeah.
side deck, you still were able
I
to
mean,
pretty much
the
get
only thing that
second.
I could probably side out was like the Iceberry package.
Right.
Because the
So
rest you want to have in your main deck.
right, that makes
Maybe like
sense.
maybe I could have cut like a Minstrel or two, like going second,
hmm
and some other stuff like Marksman. But you really don't want to cut a lot of stuff when you side in the cards.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you did mention that like out of the cards that in the side deck that you actually did play, you actually did throw in the Zodiac engine at
Yeah,
some point.
I put in the Zodiacs when I was going first because I realized that like
The
the
medallions.
Iceberry stuff didn't really work going first.
Yeah.
And one game I opened Barrage and it actually helped me win. It was
That's
really
pretty funny. Yeah, especially because it's really convenient that there's four cards that you're citing, and then
Yeah,
four cards for the zoo engine, four cards for the Iceberry engine. So that's actually pretty funny that it ended up
yeah.
working that way. And I know says an H, but it's supposed to be an L. I don't know. EDO Pro just kind of, or not EDO Pro, but Project Ignis just like I don't know has the H artwork, but that's
I
besides the
don't
point.
know.
Yeah, so it is pretty funny. I mean, you only technically cited what like 6 cards total throughout the whole
Yeah.
tournament, so you don't really
I
need a
could
side
say
deck. But
0 though, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you probably still would have maybe won or still
I
got
mean,
second place. But
I would have put Gamma Seals in the main or side deck, but yeah, Gamma Seals banned.
yeah, unfortunately, it is banned for this tournament. But
It-
is there
it's like
anything?
it's like so good in this deck because of
Yeah,
more F green.
right. Oh yeah, that would be really
Like
good.
even going first, like if you have more F green, you can just shuffle it back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say? I mean, outside of probably playing like actual side deck cards, I guess.
Well, I mean this list was pretty good.
Mhm.
I don't think I'd change much. Maybe just like change a bit like the ratios for like Marksman. I'd probably
Right.
cut one because
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe
Yeah.
like side one and like play something else would make sense.
yeah, probably side one. Yeah.
All right.
Even
Well,
at one against backrow decks, I think it's probably enough.
yeah, probably.
You can search it.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the deck profile. So thank you for coming along, and we will hopefully see you again if you happen to top the next one. All right.